just can never be too careful. So what does it take to scale to $100,000 a month in profits and beyond in an agency? All right. So we're going to talk about scaling growth, stepping back from the day-to-day and growing your agency fast. So just for context, John Logar, he was able to scale his company to a $40 million run rate in 5 years, following exactly what we're teaching here today. So he came to the, go ahead.
Mandi, a small PS. I know this guy is actually awesome. Yeah, I met him like a long time ago. So it's good to see him again.
Yeah, I know there's a few people here who worked with him too. So and so he shared that this is exactly the steps that he took. Only it cost him over $1 million to learn this. So you guys are going to be learning this. And so what we're going to be talking about, some of the stages to walk through in what order to get to $100,000 a month of profit. So everything we're going to be talking about here, the place where you've gotten to in your agency, it's not going to be anything brand new that you've never heard before, okay? But what's really important is the nuances and the sequencing. At this level of maturity in your business, those are things you have to pay attention to. So the folks that say, yeah, I've already heard this, well, great, you've already heard this, there's nothing that you can learn here. So those are the people that the nuances of it just go right over their head and they miss the whole message. So I'm hoping that each one of you are advanced enough in your thinking to understand that at this stage of the game, the devil's in the details. So how to go from working 80% in the business to working at least half of your time on the business. That's what you really need to be doing at this stage. And we're going to be talking about how to do that, how to be able to sequence yourself out of that, who to hire next, that sort of thing, and then how to safely let go, and where to focus the biggest growth. And I'm going to be going over this in a more condensed format. So if you want to the opportunity to go in deeper, just reach out to us, and we have a little bit, we have some deeper trainings on this, but we're going to go through them as much as we can in about 20 to 30 minutes. I want to make sure we have a lot of time for questions. That's the part that I think is a lot of fun, is to answer all of your questions. So just real quick, who am I? I'm Mandi Ellefson, founder of Hands Off CEO. And what we're really good at doing at Hands Off CEO is helping agencies and services scale. So extremely difficult services to scale. How we do this is we help them our clients double their gross profit with the right focused offer, generate the cash to hire the right team. The biggest reason why you're stuck in the day-to-day in your business is because you don't have the cash to hire the right people. And then also what we do is we help, we actually certify operations managers to run the business for the CEO. So we have an operations academy as part of the work that we do at Hands Off CEO that trains operations managers either internally, or we help them hire a really good operations manager. And that's really all that you need, up to about $4 to $5 million, or maybe even higher than that, depending on your price point. That's all that you really need, is a really good operations manager. And we'll actually talk about what to look for today. There's 5 aspects to look for. We'll talk about those today if that's interesting. So just checking in, what stage of growth is your agency at right now? So and just type in the number number or numbers that best fits you. 1, cash is tight and we need more sales. 2, we have work coming in, but we need more of the right type of sales. 3, we need solid management who can completely run the day-to-day. Or 4, we just need more fulfillment staff or strategists. Go ahead and type in the numbers just so I can kind of get an idea of where we're at. Tolu says 1. Mark says all of them. Carol 1.
I like how Mark is saying them all.
Yeah, okay, got it. Werner, I hope I'm saying that right, Werner, between 2 and 3. Okay, got it. And Darmish 2 and 3, got it. Aldo 1 1. Okay, so there's one. Eric approximately 30K a month, but we need more. We do white label source. So some SEO stuff. So margins are good, but we need more clients. All right. Okay, got it. So really the thing is that who I'm speaking to most are those between 2 and 4. I mean, if you're at number 1, you can still learn a lot from this, but really what we want to be, what we're talking about here is focusing on the right kind of sales to be able to scale. And so and by the way too, if you jump ahead and you really focus on the right steps, you can catapult your agency years ahead of growth. But unfortunately, most people, when they're stuck at number 1, all they can think is clients, and they completely miss. They're not ready to hear what we're talking about here today. So what does it actually take to get to $100,000 a month in profits? Well, there's 3 core drivers that we see present in nearly every rapidly, sustainably growing consulting agency. Okay, and I think sustainable because it's not the same thing. It's just going and creating a big burst of sales. That's sustainable growth. What will happen is if it's not sustainable, is you'll have a big spike and then you'll have a big dip right after. Who here has experienced that before? We've definitely have experienced that in the years past too. And it's really easy for that to happen. So you need to have the right market and the right client. So for the 3 core drivers. And I noticed I didn't just say the right market. So it's a lot of people think, okay, I have a niche. Okay, great. You might have the right market, but if you don't have the right targeting for the right client within it, it's harder to scale. And the right sustainable offer and the right team-led delivery system. The team-led delivery system, very critical. So all right, we're seeing this with a digital agency owner that doubled sales in 7 months with less reliance on him. We saw this with a research agency that added $1 million in 12 months, even with intense pressures from the pandemic. And they're about 4 times the size of that now. We've seen this with a consulting agency that went from 600,000 to 2.1 million in 12 months. And we've seen this with a marketing agency that increased their fees 600%, going from their average of about $20,000 for their projects they were doing to now $120,000 packages. So huge profit increase. And it was actually what allowed him to cut his time working in the business in half. And then here's another agency, Will Watrous shared that they were able to increase profits $150,000 to $200,000, and this was in 6 months. That's what the packages increase. So now, why are some consulting agencies not growing as fast as others? Well, they get trapped, and I'm going to go through this a little bit faster than normally. They get trapped. And the challenge is that 82% of businesses fail due to cash flow issues. This is a statistic many of us have heard before. Now, how does this actually happen with consulting agencies? Well, sales growth happens, then the team gets overwhelmed, the CEO gets pulled into the day-to-day, and it just proceeds to, you're looking at, well, we need to go higher. And then you go through and sort through all these resumes, you spend all this time. Now you're thinking, okay, do we choose quality or profit? And because you need to be profitable, you end up having to do or redo the work yourself and not quite have the level of talent that you need to really fully step back. So as you're going in and doing or redoing the work yourself, some of the work yourself, the cash flow drops, go back to working on the business, sales cycle catches up, sales growth happens, and then the whole cycle happens all over again. So where can you see yourself in this cycle? More on the right side or the left side? Just go ahead and type in R for the right side, L for the left side, or you could just, or you could just say all over if it's everywhere. Just go ahead and type it in the chat box so I can get an idea. Alex is more on the right side, right, left. Yeah, so a number of you are saying that you're getting stuck more on the right side, where which it makes sense. It's so it's really easy to get stuck in the day-to-day, which impacts your ability to generate more growth. And how that really impacts things is that you're left as a tired workforce in your company. It's like really working very difficult, working very hard to be able to continue to generate more growth. And the reason why is because the business is totally dependent on you. So even as you're staffing up, even as you're hiring more people, business is totally dependent on you. Now, why this is important is that this is how it impacts your growth goals. This green dot represents, that goal that you have for how much growth you might want to bring. Maybe it's 2 million, maybe it's 5 million, maybe it's 10 million. But this red line here represents the amount of time you're either able or willing to spend on your business. So we have this natural limit where the only way you can make more money, more income, is to work more and more hours. Who's experienced this before? And this is what happens here is that even as you're staffing up, even as you're generating more growth in your company, it's at the expense of you working more and more and more hours. So we need to find a way that we can break free from this cycle that is basically a time for money model. So even as you're staffing up, you still have a time for money model. We need to be able to break away from this, because otherwise more growth just makes you more stuck. So this is the piece that I want you to really understand, that most agencies are stuck in this cycle, which is why they can't really generate more growth without them working more hours. So, but something I want you to recognize is that it's growth. This is slow, grinding, risky, and it is growth versus the 5 exits that we're going to be talking through. It's just freeing, sustainable, and scalable. So these 5 exits, and one is growth, where you generate more income by working more hours. And the other is scale, where you can actually generate more income as you work less and less. This is the kind of scalable growth that our clients join Scale to Freedom, join our programs to be able to experience. So, but agencies are very difficult to scale. We've had a number of our clients have MBAs. We've had some who have been able to actually successfully scale other business models, but have not been able to do it with their own consulting company because it is just so difficult to be able to scale this. So you really need a different approach. You need a very different approach that and a different way of allocating the people on your team. So 5 exits to scale to 8-figure consultancy. So there are 3 different phases of hands-off growth. One is building capacity, one is scaling growth, and one is passive asset. Now, building capacity, this is where you're getting to work 50% on your business, and the business can run without the CEO. I have a tractor outside of my window that's kind of loud. Give me a second. Where I'm at, there's a tractor. Yes, okay. It's not my tractor, but I'm going to shut the window so that I can hear better, and that it's starting to get a little bit hot too.
No problem. The joy of live webinars, I guess.
Yes. Yeah. Now you know for sure that it's live, right? In case you were questioning it before. So the second part is scaling growth. So once you build some capacity, now this is where you could really get to $100,000 a month in profits, and where the company can grow without the CEO. Pretty freaking amazing place to be at. And then the third one is a passive asset, where you can sell for a maximum multiple and really build legacy wealth. So just checking in, which phase would you like to get to in your company? Phase 1, 2, or 3? Which one would you like to be? There's no right or wrong. It's helpful to know, because you take different actions based on what your goals are. So David, you want to go all the way? Awesome. Is David the only one on the line here? All right. Alex says I'll take 2. Yep, that's a good place to be at too. Just even getting halfway through number 2 is pretty awesome to be at. Darmish 2. All right, so looking at these, it's important to know where you want to go because you want to be investing in your company aligned with where you want to go. And if you know you want to be able to exit your company someday, you might as well build it right now so that you can receive all the benefits from it. And if you want to have a company that can grow without you, you want to be investing aligned with what you want to create in your business. Otherwise, you're putting up with all sorts of problems that you don't need to when you could just solve them right now. So, all right. So I'm going to go over these exits, and then I'm going to open up the time for questions because there were some really great questions that I wanted to go over, and we have a ton of case studies for how our clients have been able to go through these different exits. I'll just say it works. All right. If you want to go over, we can share more case studies if you want to reach out to us, and if you want to see the whole slide deck, reach out to my email, Mandi, MANDI @handsoffceo.com. If someone could type it, Christian, if you could type it into the chat box, that'd be great. So it's Mandi with an I, and then my team can send you over the full slide deck. It's not something we usually share, I'm going to be honest with you guys, but we'll share with you if you reach out and you asked. So, all right. So stage 1, building capacity. Exit 1 is getting out of, so we've had some questions for who do we hire next? So I'm going to answer that question for you right now. Like what's, and maybe another way to look at that is what parts of this should I remove myself from first? So exit 1 is client and project management. So client management, we see take up 20 to 30 hours per week for the CEO who is still involved in it, somewhere between 10 and 30 hours per week, just depending on how involved they are in it and how many clients that they have. A tip here, if you're still the one managing client relationships, like the day-to-day of the clients and the communications and the scheduling and managing projects, like you are missing out on millions of dollars of growth in your company. Because if you're the one doing that, there's a whole lot of growth that is just untapped that you're not able to get into because you're too busy. You're too busy working in your business. So that client and project management, that's the first exit. That's what we walk our clients' teams through in the operations academies. We teach them how to be able to actually do these things. And then exit 2 is the operations management. And this is amazing once you get out of operations management. So this stage 1 here is what we walk our clients through in year 1 of our program, just so you know. And the team does all the heavy lifting for them, because really at this point here, your job as a CEO is to focus on growth. Your job is to focus on, we'll talk about this here in a minute, the power of ones, for the right offer, the right pricing, and the right client that you're going to be able to have the highest price point for. That's the most sustainable and scalable for your company. Your job is to work on growth, okay? It's to work on the business, and your team's job is to work in the business. So that's why we started the Operations Academy as a sidecar to our main program, because it frees up the CEO to actually focus on growth. And then we just got kind of tired some years back. We got tired of teaching the CEOs how to teach their teams to run the company. And it just was too slow. So what we just said is we just kind of elbowed them out of the way. And we said, we're just going to do it for you. So we just started we put all of their operations managers and trainings and COOs. We actually are trained COOs too. And we just now teach them how to do all these things and how to actually run the business profitably. So there's 5 different things that we're looking for. Anyway, I'm not going to go over this case study. Basically, he doubled sales in 7 months after 3 years of stagnation, and increased profits net profit 600% over since. So big deal. But why this is able to work is that Tom has a really good operations manager in place now. There's 5 expectations of an exceptional operations manager. So these are the things that you want to be training your operations managers to do. So if you're asking who to hire next, well, if first of all, if you haven't gotten to $1 million yet in your agency, you don't have this role in place. Because if you did, and if you were focusing on working on your business, you'd be able to do it. Now, also we see a lot of agencies get stuck between 1 and 3 million here because they don't have good enough leadership here. A lot of times what they do is they say, okay, well, we're going to hire a really good COO. Then they go and they spend they could be spending $150,000, $170,000. This is what other people tell us too, by the way. This is what other agency owners tell us. And then they go and hire this person. This person doesn't work out because they hired too high of a level person, because this person they expected to come in and operationalize their company. But this person at this high level, they just wanted it all done for them, and they just to come in as the manager. No. You need somebody to roll up their sleeves at this point and get their hands dirty in your company. But the problem is they don't know how to do that really. They have some kind of ideas for how to do it. But we learned that if they have the systems and processes to install, they can do a whole lot better job. Now, these are the 5 expectations you should have of them. This is what they should be doing. The reality is most COOs aren't even doing this. So the first expectation is to turn your vision into reality. So turn your vision into reality, not their vision, your vision. Turn it and to lead the team in turning it into reality. Second one is to solve problems before you're aware of them, and to really create a culture within your team of that. And and this third one is really critical. It's to innovate repeatable systems to profitably run the business. So there's a number of factors here. Profitably run the business, that's their job, right? Repeatable systems, the only thing worse than having the business totally dependent on you as a CEO is to have it dependent on somebody else who could just be leaving at any second. It's really stressful, it sucks, I've been there, and I do not recommend it. You really want to have someone running your business based on repeatable systems, but also they need to innovate them. Their job is to lead the team in innovating them. Their job is to be innovating them and looking for better ways to do it, and leading the team and actually systematizing and up-leveling it. The reality is that you're, depending on how quickly your business is growing, you're going to be seeing your systems break down between 90 days and 18 months, just depending on how quickly you're growing. So if you're not innovating your processes, guess who's doing it? I mean, if your team's not doing it, you're doing it. So every time you generate more growth, the systems break, you have to jump back in there, and it slows down the growth of the company. And this is what it looks like for your cash flow, right? So if you're experiencing that, this is a big problem. You need to have a team that's actually taking care of this. So this is something that we train operations managers on how to do.
She coughed. She needs to be unmuted.
Yeah. Sorry, it's instinctive, no, right?
Yeah.
So they need to be there innovating this so that you can actually focus on generating more growth. And they need to also improve client quality and look for ways to improve profits. Again, this is something that, like, as CEOs, we're naturally very good at. We're always looking for ways to do this. It takes up a lot of brain power, though, that keeps us from actually focusing on generating more growth. So, and then obviously their job is to manage the team for you. So, so you have bandwidth to work to focus on growth. So just imagine how much more growth if you had someone like this in place in your company that was an exceptional operations manager, stepping up on all 5 of these ways, how much more growth could you see in your business? This is an important question I want you to ask yourself. Werner is saying 10x growth. And I want you to, even if you don't necessarily have to put this into the chat box, but I want you to think about what's 10x, how much, what is the actual dollar value? A lot of times we can get a little bit hesitant. So did anyone else hear the question besides Werner? How much more growth could you see in your company if you had this kind of operations manager? So it's Dave's saying huge, a lot.
I'm guessing that most of the people are doing those 5 things themselves.
Yeah.
So
yeah, $150,000 plus per month. Yeah, the reality, yeah, Christian, I mean, Jeremy, sorry. To your point, a lot of the CEOs are doing this themselves, but they're not able to do it very well because you're doing 10 other things. There's just way too many things to do. And just the peace of mind alone, having this person in place makes a huge difference. And I know I've run my business with this kind of person in place and without it, it's just not even, you get to a point where you just can't continue doing it. So now here's the thing is Mark, I'm glad you pointed out, but affording the right person is tough. The chicken or the egg thing. Yeah, it is. If you go and you do it the way most people do, and you actually don't need a 6-figure salary for this person though, if you have the right training in place for them. And this is something that we saw a huge need for this, the chicken or the egg problem. And first of all, though, if you can see, like some of you are saying, lots, I don't know what lots is, but get concrete about that, right? Because that's where the money is. And because if you're looking at this and saying I could double my company, and your company is at, say, $1 million right now, there's your money right there to be able to afford that person. But it doesn't have to be that way. It's about it's not all or nothing. It's about generating the right growth alongside it. And that's why it's so critical for the CEO to focus on growth, because if you don't, then you won't have the cash to be able to hire this person. That's one of the things that to be able to support our clients in stage 1 here, to be able to get out of these, is that we help them focus on the right sales. So while the team is focusing on this, the CEO then focuses on the right scaling sales. So I'm going to go over this really quick. Again, I promised I wanted to open up for questions. With exit 3 and exit 4, scaling sales. So once you create the capacity, then you can scale sales. But the reality is that you're still generating sales as you're going through that. Otherwise, you don't have the cash flow to step away. The biggest reason why CEOs are stuck in the day-to-day, as other people are pointing out here, is a chicken egg problem, being able to invest ahead. So someone else asked in one of the questions, should I go into debt to invest ahead of in the growth of my company? I'd say absolutely invest ahead. This is something that we did way earlier on, before we had the excess cash flow. If you're only investing in your company from your cash flow and you're short on cash flow, you're dead in the water, and you're going to constantly have to work so much harder, especially with a recession coming up right now. Basically, is that if you just sit around and you wait for enough cash to be there to be able to get to that next level, you're going to be working way harder than you need to. But how do you know if you can invest ahead? Is that you actually have a good offer. So and there's this trap here where you need more team to service more clients, but you need more cash to hire more team, but you also need more clients to generate more cash. So it's like this cycle that you have to break free from. How you break free from that is by having a really kick-ass offer. How do you be able to afford this person? Is you got to generate the cash to grow. There's just no way around it. You got to generate more. This is the key difference between scaling any other kind of business and a high ticket service business like an agency. So you need an irresistible offer to generate the cash to be able to hire the operations manager or promote within. There's a lot of, probably about half the time we're able to train from within, like a person from within, maybe they're an account manager, there could be a project manager, and we're able to train them up into an operations manager, which is a huge win-win, because they get to really step up in their career, in their company, in the company, but you're able to manage your cash flow a lot better because they're in training. You don't have to be paying this big, huge salary yet, but you'll grow into that. And at some point, you will be paying a big, fat salary to them because they'll deserve it. And this is how you monetize this role. And because what you want to do is you want to turn your operations manager into a profit center. And how you do that is their job is to focus on quality and profits to be able to increase capacity so you can generate more growth. And to allow you the time and space to be able to focus on these two things. So you really requires a very bold approach. We got to jack up our prices. Now we're in the market where people are starting to think, okay, maybe I can increase their prices. But the reality is the way people are increasing their prices are going to be like 5-10%, maybe. That's not even going to cover inflation, by the way. What we need to do is we want to look at how we can massively jack up prices and do it in a way where we're actually adding more value to your clients, adding more value. So how you do that? Increase the reward, decrease the risk. Bigger promises, less risk. So when you have really good client case studies, you can invest ahead in your growth if you're willing to go all in. But that's when you can invest ahead, is when you have consistent results. And when you can generate for your clients more certainty, they're willing to pay more. More certainty, more income. That's the simple way. You build this bridge across to what your clients want, and you deliver a much bigger outcome. We don't have the chance, an opportunity to go through this. This goes further beyond that we can talk about today. So what we do with our clients though is we help them be able to create vision. We do vision selling with them, and we help them be able to create this sales tool that allows them to be able to at least double their price point. And what it allows them to do is we have case study after case study after case study of being able to double to quadruple price increases. So it increases gross margin, increases your cash flow, longer contracts, sales is easier to delegate, and you really can create wait lists. Basically, you can create wait lists, but you have to have a really good kick-ass offer. And how you do that is by power of one's focus, getting really clear and focused on the one client type, one painful problem, one outcome. Mark did this. This is how he was able to increase fees 600%. Even during COVID, when all of his clients were freaking out and stopped investing, they were able to go and sell for much higher price points. So it's made it be possible for them to be much more sustainable. So, they're selling in the 6-figure packages. I mean, does Mark now have the income to be able to pay for a really good quality staff? Yes, he does. He absolutely does. So the scalability problem and the ability to actually afford people on your team, it's a sales problem. It's a sales problem. The problem is but the operations people don't know this. They don't know this, and I didn't know this either. 10 years ago when I started this company, I didn't quite know this either, but I do know it now because I'm a sales and marketing expert in addition to an operations expert. It's all connected. And if you don't get the offer right, you will not have the cash flow to be able to scale your agency. All right, so we talked about stage 2. And the scaling sales, client strategy. At some point, you'll want to get out of client strategy, so that client strategy so you can continue scaling. And stage 3 is moving this to a passive asset where you can install executive leadership. Some of you want that, some of you don't, but just getting through the first two stages will tee you up to be able to do that at some point if you want to be able to sell your company. And just so you know, everything that I've just talked about today here, and very, very briefly, if you go and talk to a financial expert or an exit strategist, what they'll do is they'll tell you everything that we told you to do. They just won't tell you how to do it. They say, yeah, you need to increase your prices. You need to be able to package your services in a way that is more scalable, but they won't tell you how to make them more sellable though. That's the other part of it. So, so you need to have it, but more scalable, but it needs to be more sellable too. Because the problem is the operations experts, they're all about talking about scalability, but that's useless though if no one in the market wants to buy what you're selling. So you really have to have a way of making it just so sexy so that they're willing to pay a lot higher price point for it. So anyway, I want to go into the questions. I want to get into, but before I do, I know you're, because we had some really great questions I wanted to get into. But before I do, I wanted just to let you know that if you're listening to this and you'd like to see how this might work for your company, we do have a special session that is, it's complimentary. You do have to apply. This isn't for everybody. You know, we have, how we work with our clients is we guarantee a 5x ROI. We also guarantee 100% happiness guarantee up to a certain stage. And we partner with our clients. The clients that we partner with are able to generate a lot of growth in their company, but to do it in a way where they can actually be working less and less hours, to be able to do it in a hands-off way. So that's not for everyone. Some agencies are just fine with working more and more hours to generate more growth. Those are not the people we work with. We work with people who are willing to invest ahead and that are looking, that want to know, like, what is the best way that I can do this that is going to generate ease, that it's going to be sustainable, and that you're going to help us be able to generate the cash flow all the way through it so that we can actually fund our own growth. So if you're looking at building a multi-million-dollar agency that can run without you, that someday you can sell, this is for you. We have a scalable growth visioning session that you can have with our team, where you have to have tangible results for your clients and 100% commitment to scaling world-class services. So this is not, you have to have really good results. So if you go to handsoffceo.com/apply, you can have that session with our team. And we can really look at what opportunities there are in your business. So I want to jump in. So if you could just throw that in there, handsoffceo.com/apply, and then you can have a complimentary session with our team to look at what possibilities are in your company to scale a multi-million-dollar company that can run without you. So Jeremy, do any I know that you guys have a structured way you're doing this. I wanted to leave some time for questions.
So how much time do we have, Mandi? I didn't want to interrupt you because there was a lot of value, and I think it was very interesting. So no rush here. I think it's all good. How much time do you still have, like, for the questioning? Do you have like 20 minutes?
Yeah, definitely. I have 20 minutes.
Nice. All right.
20 minutes.
So you heard it. If you want to, if you have any, we have some questions from before joining that I'm going to go through. Mandi is obviously very excited to answer some of them, so I'll be very curious to have answers. But in the meantime, if you guys have any questions based on the presentation here that you want to know more, or something that is more specific to your situation, do not hesitate to type them in, and then I'll mention them as I'll try to read them. All right, so shall we start? You good to go, Mandi?
Yeah, I'm great.
All right, so here's one I like as well personally. So here's a question from Matt, and he says, what actions on the owner part truly drive whether an agency is growing quickly or slowly? So basically, what can I do to really move the needle, right?
Yeah, what you can do to move the needle is to focus working on the business and getting really clear on the power of ones. The one client, the one problem, the one client type, not just market, but the right client type, the most profitable client type, and one outcome. So it's getting really clear on not just who you're working with, but under what conditions will you work with them. And what is the minimum results that you're going to generate for your clients? This is the biggest thing that we see agencies totally drop the ball on. It's so sad because they're saying, well, you know what, we'll basically do work with anyone who comes into us, comes to work with us. And here's the thing is like, I don't know if you guys noticed, and when I talked about who we work with agencies and service businesses that are successful, that want to build multi-million-dollar companies that can run without them. Any agency that says, we just want to add another $100,000 this next year, no, that is not big enough. The thing is that someone who just wants to generate another $100,000 is not going to be willing to make the investment to work with us, because it's not cheap to work with us. But someone who wants to build a multi-million-dollar company and who has this big vision and who already is pretty busy in their company, I mean, we could do some pretty magical things. And then for them, it's really clear, like we get this clear ROI. So for each agency, I would really look at, it's very important to know what is the minimum result that you're going to be creating for a client, and start talking about that. Start selling that. Don't sell the deliverables, the little the pieces like, oh, we're gonna this many social media posts, we're gonna be managing this much ad spend, all that, those things, those are not things that your clients want. Your clients want results. Get really clear who you can deliver what results for, under what conditions, what do they need to have in place already, what are the prerequisites. You get then choose who you're going to work with under what conditions, and don't allow any other clients to come in there. Get really picky and really choosy about who you're going to be working with. That's going to drive results. And you know what will drive the results more than anything is to guarantee your results. And that's scary. It may be scary for some of you. You don't have to do it, but we just had a client who has added $1.5 million of sales in just over 6 months working with us, because he got really serious about using his guarantee. Without the guarantee, they would have generated probably $500,000. So still pretty good, but it allowed them to generate growth and people, and it was just really exciting, right? And you want to have your operations to be so solid that you can deliver those kind of results. Because imagine how much more confident you show up in a sales conversation with a business when you can look at this and you know that your team can deliver it. If you know your team can deliver these $1 million outcomes for your clients, you're going to be able to really dig in, and it's going to make sales so much easier. And that was the biggest thing for Mark, that allowed them to be able to go from these individual packages that were like around $20,000, and then they'd sell another 20,000 and another 20,000, which was completely keeping Mark stuck in the business, to going and just selling the whole big kahuna and selling it for a $120,000 growth program. And it was that much easier. It was easier to sell his services for 600% higher fee. I'm going to also, I want to also talk about contract durations while we're talking about this. I saw this.
You're cheating. You're going ahead of the questions.
I know,
here,
but it's connected. So I'm just going to go ahead and
go ahead.
So the contract durations. So here's the thing: is that in some cases, I think some agencies can go without contract durations and month-to-month thing. I don't think it's a very compelling value proposition, though. So you'll see some agencies that are like, their value proposition is like, no, locked in. You can leave whenever you want. Oh, I do not want a client that has the mindset that they can leave whenever they want. I'll tell you right now, we don't work with clients on that level at all. If you're not willing to commit, like we have a 90-day program and we have a 12-month program. And if you're not willing to commit to either one of them, we have absolutely no desire to work with you because you're not committed enough to your growth. You should show up like that with your clients. What is the minimum standard? Here's the thing is, maybe it's 2 years. Maybe you know that for clients to get the best results working with you. So for example, Jamie, they were able to more than double their price point. With their offer was, we add $10 million in 3 years for beauty and skincare brands. They knew that the first year it wasn't really where the big results came in. It's really full on 3 years. So you get to think about, put your contract durations aligned with where you can deliver the best results. Because with agency work, you're not going to see the best. You're not going to start seeing results for about 6 months. That's where you really start seeing that. So why would you want to have your clients bow out 90 days in because they weren't committed enough to see the full results? So that's a question there. Answer.
Well,
okay. What else do we got?
Well, there is a question exactly along those lines from Diane. She said, what are the most common pitfalls of scaling services? She muted herself again, Christian.
I know, I'm coughing, so I've got to do it. So what are the most common pitfalls of scaling services? Not having enough cash. You don't have enough cash to scale. And the reason why you don't have enough cash to scale is because your offer is not compelling enough to be able to ask your clients upfront for a higher cash upfront fee. And this is where we run into these like net 15, net 30, net 60 insanity. You need to get paid up front. You need to get paid up front as much. And the only way you're going to be able to get paid a good chunk of the work up front is if your offers are so cutting edge and that nails the problem they have so well that they're willing to do that. So,
Mandi, I'm thinking when you say not enough cash in order to scale, can you give us some example or range of how much cash we need for going from X to Y, or is that an easy formula?
Well, here's the thing about
scaling
eats up cash, and there's not a concrete answer here because it's kind of shooting off the hip consulting, because each person here has a different business. Your business is different, and the cash needs of your business are going to be different. But but do not sit around and wait for cash to happen in your business before investing in your company. Like that's like one of the biggest pitfalls is being cheap. It's saying it's by having a mindset of lack, instead of saying, hey, you know what? I want to get to $5 million over the next 3 months. Next 3 years. So we want to get to 5 million over the next 3 years. Well, what is it going to take for you to get to 5 million? Well, if you can't just sit around and wait until you get those next clients to be able to have enough income. The problem is that even if you bring in those next clients, oftentimes they're not profitable enough because the price point's not high enough. And the price point's not high enough because the offer is not compelling enough to be able to sell it. Again, at that same thing, it's all coming back to this. You need to have a really good, solid offer that is scalable, that is valuable to your prospects, and that it will generate the cash flow that'll allow you to actually hire the people that will allow you to step back. So also another pitfall is not having a good operations manager in place to be able to run the day-to-day so that you can focus on thinking. So that's another pitfall. You need to be having 1 day a week, which is your CEO day, that you don't take calls, you don't work with clients, you don't even work with your team. You're not available to anything but thinking and working on your business. But most agency owners simply are not able to do that because of the foundations that aren't in place. And if you just think that when I get that next client, it doesn't work that way, because it'll just be eaten up by other things, because the whole foundation of it isn't sustainable enough to be able to actually scale. another pitfall, not having the people that you can trust to be able to step back. That's another piece. Just and also just not letting go. So there's two aspects of letting go. There's the one side of it is there's actual structures that need to be in place for you to feel confident letting go. There's simply things that just have to be in place. And then there's the mindset. Now the mindset, if you don't have the structures in place, no amount of mindset work is going to be making you feel confident letting go. You just simply won't do it because it's this baby that you've spent, all these years, maybe decades of your life building. So, but you really need to be able to have a compelling enough vision that you'll actually be willing to let go. Because if you don't have a compelling enough vision, then you're just going to stay into the part that you're going to keep your hands in it because it feels safer. So, what other questions do we have?
I was thinking of, how do you shift your mindset from creating and producing to becoming a manager from then? And obviously you can question the underlying, like, should you effectively go from, creating and producing to becoming a manager? But since you mentioned that in your pitfall, then what do you make of this question?
What I make of the question is that to your shift from your mindset to creating and producing to becoming a manager. All right, so it's a good question because you do actually need to be shifting from that to becoming a manager, but really you want to just actually jump right away from that.
Right.
Because because your job is not to be a manager. Your job is to be the leader and to develop other leaders underneath you who are managing. And managing, Stephen R. Covey talked about this in his book, First Things First. And a manager is working within the components and within the systems. That's what a manager does. They are working in the systems of the business. A leader is working on the systems on the business. So your job is not to become a manager. If you aspire to be a manager, good luck. That's pretty stressful.
Yeah,
with everything else you have to do.
No, I think it's a great answer. We have a question from Melanie. I'd like to unmute her if she's okay. Melanie, you're okay to be unmuted? I think it's easier if you ask the question because I'm just terrible at reading questions. Hey, here we go. Hey, welcome, Melanie.
Hey, Mandy, that was awesome. Thank you. Thanks. So much value. So much value. So I get the whole, one client, one offer, but that one offer can encompass many other mini offers within that, requiring, I can say, okay, well, whatever that outcome, that promise is, but it can complicate. And that's where do you draw the line? Yeah. Right. It's what would you define as an offer? Because it's you're doing many different things and it's okay, you're a 12-month program. So it's how do you step into that without overwhelming yourself with okay, now there's so much going on.
Well, and here's the thing is it's a great question, Mel, and it's a balance, and it's one that that we analyze with every single one of our clients, and it's completely different. There's nothing cookie cutter about it. So it's a problem that it's hard to just say right off the bat. And as you brought it up, here's the reality. Cutting edge is complicated. It's harder to scale, but the reality, and that's why you have to charge so much more for it. It can't be just 20% more. It's got to be a lot more. So that's one thing, is that the pricing has to be a high enough point to make it worthwhile. One. The other piece is about bundling, and it's looking at the different services that you can put together to be able to really asking the question, who could we really deliver the best results for? Or another question could be, what kind of client could we generate $1 million outcome for in 12 months? And if you're already delivering $1 million outcomes, what kind of client could we deliver $5 million outcome for in 12 months? And by the way, you might not be able to, okay? It's all right if you're not, but they're questions that can help you push the edge of what's possible And here's the thing is that everything that we've done with our clients wasn't possible at one point. It wasn't possible at one point. And how it's possible now that we're generating $1 million outcomes for our clients and we're consistently helping them at least double their price point is because at one point we decided what was impossible we would make possible. And we figured out what it would take to do that. And it was hard, but guess what? It's what allowed us to be able to completely take a corner on the market with scaling agencies. Nobody does it anywhere near as good as, I mean, I'm sorry if I'm sounding cocky on it, but we on sales, marketing, and operations and the profitability on part of that, nobody can do it as well as we can because we've specialized so clearly and we've really invested in our processes and how we can be able to look at our very best 10% of our clients. So we look at the very best 10% of the client. Maybe it's 5%. Maybe it's even visioning what you'd like to see when you haven't done it yet. And we say, what would it take for us to consistently do this every single time for our clients? And the number one thing is that you have to do it for a different client in almost every case. Is that the biggest thing is that your biggest, most expansive results are oftentimes not going to be had with where the majority of your clients are at. Not always the case, but I hope that's. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll
Jeremy.
probably leave it here. There is a cool thing, by the way, just as a personal tip, Melanie, there is a book called $100 million Offer, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's a pretty helpful book to help you thinking about how to structure a really compelling offer. So maybe that's something you want to. And by the way,
that's a good book. And that was and there's a lot of similarities that we've been teaching over the past decade that they're really aligned with that. So.
Speaking of which, do you have any book recommendation? I think that's how we'll probably close it for the Q&A.
Book recommendations.
And I know we covered a lot of different topics, so you can go in any direction. Could go into sales, operation,
I'm trying to think of some of my most recent ones that I've enjoyed. I read a lot of books, and I've got a little bit of COVID brain, so it's not coming off the top of my head. One book I really enjoyed recently was Draw to Win.
Okay.
And that's the approach that we take to training is that we like to use a lot of visuals. Where I learned that actually was from McDonald's. When I was in high school, I worked at McDonald's and in a couple of very desperate months in college. And they use visuals to train people who might not even know English, how to assemble a hamburger consistently every time. Now, by the way, you're not going to be able to take that. Anyway, visuals are really good for training. Visuals are really good for selling. I love using visuals. I used to be a graphic designer. That's where our whole offer structure came from. And you can use a visual. It makes it so much easier to sell.
Love it. Can you repeat the title of the book and the author as well?
Draw to Win. It looks like Christian just dropped it in the chat box.
I hope that's the one. Dan Rome.
Okay.
I think so. Let's take a look and see. Yep, that's it.
Okay.
That's the
Brilliant.
one. It's a good book.
So Mandi, it's been absolutely an absolute pleasure to have you. Where can people know more about you? I think they know your website now. Can they?
Yeah. So
is there any
so
other?
So if this was a shortened presentation, we kind of it's really a Q&A format. So if you'd like more structured, you can go to handsoffceo.com/briefing if you want to have a more in depth. But I think that really the best thing to do is that if you're listening to this and saying, hey, I'd love to see what this might look like for our agency if we're really ready to scale. And if you want to be able to do it in a way where there's less risk, where hundreds of agencies have come before you, then I'd really encourage you to schedule a time with our team for a scalable growth visioning session. You can go to handsoffceo.com/apply. And if you also have any further questions, you can email me at Mandi at handsoffceo, at Mandi with an I at handsoffceo.com. And I will get to it. My team is the one who mans that email, but I'll get to it eventually. So just make sure you let us know that you were on this presentation so I remember.
Brilliant. Okay.